There's a man called Sadiq Khan, and he is the mayor of London. And his office has been accused of trying to silence research that found that the introduction of ULEZ, which stands for
Ultra Low Emission Zone,
right, in 2019 had insignificant effects on ozone and particle pollution. And we know all of this through private emails. These have come to light. Neil Garratt is Conservative London Assembly Member for Croydon and Sutton. Neil, good morning to you. How significant do you think these emails are, and what do you hope will happen?
I think the emails are very significant. I mean, Sadiq Khan's justification, as we've heard a lot in recent years, is about following the science. You know, he pretends that this is the completely obvious, natural, scientific policy to pursue, and the science research backs him up. And I think what's starting to emerge is that some of the scientific research he's relying on was actually commissioned by his office. One piece in particular that he quotes all the time is actually commissioned from Imperial by his office. And I think I don't want to challenge the sort of integrity of the scientists, but there is an old saying, isn't there, about who pays the piper calls the tune. And a lot of these tunes have been called by City Hall, which he then replays as if these are scientists just, working away, doing their own work, which he's just picking up and relying on. And it looks like a much closer, a much more complicated relationship than that. And I think it really underlines the fact that from the beginning, it's been clear that it's been very hard for the mayor's office to demonstrate there'd be much environmental or health benefit from ULEZ. And we know there'll be a huge financial impact on those people with those older cars that are affected, huge financial blow to them, either paying £12.50 a day or buying a new car, which, this is not a time when people have lots of spare money. So I think it really calls into question the merits of this policy, because the supposed benefits are starting to look quite small, and the financial impact is pretty heavy.
It's always so important, isn't it? As you say, you don't want to question the scientific integrity of those involved, and just to make sure we report this proportionately. I mean, this study found that the introduction of ULEZ had insignificant effects on ozone and particulate matter, but that it had brought nitrogen dioxide down by around 3%. Now, a lot of people would say that that is a change and therefore an improvement in the air.
What does dioxide do to us?
Oh, I couldn't tell you, but it sounds bad for you. Yeah, and, the ozone problem, we're led to believe, has pretty much been dealt with through dramatic actions taken by all of us. And perhaps this is the sort of thing we need to do to tackle the crisis that we're facing.
Well, I think 3% is interesting. I mean, there's some other research that the mayor produced earlier a year ago, which was suggesting maybe more like a 1 or 2% change. This is the sort of ballpark of what we're seeing of the impact of ULEZ, which is completely at odds with what the mayor says. I mean, when Sadiq Khan is talking about the impact of his ULEZ plans, he uses language that, without quite saying so, implies that it's going to transform our air from dirty air to clean air, and he's, the savior of all of the children who are, will now be breathing clean air. And then you look at it and you say, well, hold on, 97%, 98% of the pollution that's in the air will still be there. So it actually is quite a small change. And these are the best figures that he can find, to quote, in support of the policy. And it's just hard to see how such a small change in air quality could have any real dramatic impact on human health. And in fact, that's also the integrated impact assessment
suggests. So, Neil, where would that pollution be coming from? Why would it remain 97% of pollution that's there? That's a massive figure. Where would that be coming from?
I mean, it comes from all sorts of different sources. I mean, road vehicles are a significant source of air pollution, of course, as is, all kinds of industrial processes. And of course, the point is you can't just switch all that off. There are certainly some green campaigners who I think thought that lockdown was brilliant when everyone was stuck in their houses, nobody went anywhere, and, you could hear the birds singing in the trees. And that was quite lovely. But of course, the economy does not do well if people can't go to work. And so I think this is the challenge that we have to balance, is how do we balance, maintaining a sort of prosperous economy and people able to go to work and do all the things that they need to do against the environmental cost of those things. So there definitely is an environmental impact, but there's also an important positive financial impact. And it's that weighing up of the two that I think the mayor never really seems to think about. Well, a lot of people have to get to work who suddenly now have to find £12.50 a day.
People will be thinking if London sneezes, they will catch cold, whether they're in Oldham or whether they're in Cleethorpes or wherever they are tomorrow. or next year. How do you see this playing out? How big a factor will this be in the mayoral elections next year?
Well, I think the mayor's plan is obviously to ignore all of this and plough on regardless and bring in the ULEZ expansion to the whole of London. This will be at the end of the month, which, it may not seem necessarily like it will impact those people outside London. But, I was visiting family yesterday outside London. They were just up in Hertfordshire. If they want to come and visit me in return next year, they need to make sure their car's ULEZ compliant. I think in terms of what the mayor should do, I think he should pause and he should delay. I think we should have a proper examination of the evidence to make sure that it really stacks up. Is this actually the best way to clean up London's air? And secondly, just to give people more time. We've been saying this from the beginning, that he's really rushed this through. He only announced in November last year that he was going to do this. So people have had less than a year at a time of, real financial pressure, potentially to try to replace their car. And now we're seeing this evidence that the benefits that are touted for the ULEZ expansion are either very small or, there's question marks about the evidence behind them. I think the whole policy really needs a rethink. Is this the best way to clean up London's air? And have people been given enough time to get ready for it? I don't think they have.
Neil Garratt, thanks for your take on things. Neil Garratt is the Conservative London Assembly member for Croydon and Sutton. Yeah. He thinks the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, should pause and delay.
And
I would say two hopes on that. Bob hope and no hope.
We ought to probably give a right of reply to the Mayor's office, given the allegations that were made there. A spokesman for the Mayor said it is right and standard practice across government that we commission experts to carry out research to inform the work we do. He went on to point out that the Imperial is a world-leading institution looking at air quality.
The Conservatives are saying that the Mayor and those scientists have an alarmingly cosy relationship. OK. GB Views at gbnews.com.